and welcome to Connected Conversations for Creatives, a place where creatives like you can learn, grow, and connect. I'm your host, Jennifer Carr. There are people you meet both online and offline that you have a chance meeting with, and you know that person you're talking to is special. And today's guest is one of those connections I made and was given the opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with him on his podcast, The Des Experience. It was such a friendly and welcoming experience that I knew we needed to have another sit down together. So today, podcaster Desmond is here to hang out, and who knows where today is going to take us. So Des, thank you for being here, and I'm so glad that we get to hang out again.
Oh, no problem, no problem.
So you get to know me a little bit on your show. So now you get to tell us about you. So go.
All right, so what do you want to know? You want to know about childhood? What do you want to know?
Where did you grow up?
All right, so I grew up in New Jersey. I always say, because nobody knows what this town is, so I always say near Fort Dix. So I grew up in this small town called Browns Mills. From humble beginnings, I'm the youngest of 5 siblings. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. My mom raised all 5 of us on her own. Shout out to mom. Love you. Yeah, it was just like a small town, a lot of like trees. There were some creeks. There were some things to do, but I was mainly surrounded by like family. I had friends. I just spent a lot of time like on the weekends. That's when I was younger at my aunt's house. To spend time with my cousins. We would stay up and play video games like all night on the weekends and stuff like that. Shout out to my aunt, my cousins, everybody. I love you. After school, as I got older, I would play basketball with my friends and stuff like that. One thing my mom taught me was just stay focused and do what you have to do and just stay out of trouble. So that's always been my mindset as I was younger, growing up to now. So finished elementary school, moved to middle school, kind of the same principles. You know, as you get older, you start discovering yourself, who you are, what you want to be, what type of people you want around you. So just staying focused on the goal, gaining more friends, getting to know people. Some people, you can just tell off a person's vibe if you're going to like them or not. So people that had the same interests with me and stuff like that, talk to them more. And the people I didn't really vibe with, I just stayed away from them. I'm all about positivity. Negative vibes I don't really want around me. So as I got older, got into high school, I really started discovering myself around sophomore year, because there was a brief time period where I lived down in South Carolina for a year with my mom and moved back up north to Jersey. So that was a different experience. Getting used to how people talk down there. The culture was just different, but it was a good experience. I'm like a sponge. I like to soak up as much knowledge and energy as possible. So after high school, did college, 4 years online, Kaplan University. And during my senior year, during the time period, I was halfway through. I was almost done. I was working at the same time, and my firstborn was on the way too. So a lot was going on. So there's a lot going on during that time period. But I managed to graduate with my bachelor's degree in business administration. I did that. Had my firstborn, who just turned 11 the other day.
I know, it goes by so fast. Ugh.
Yeah, so then had my second born years later. He's 7 now. Shout out to Sydney Sage. Daddy loves you both. The relationship I was with, the mother of our children, we was together for 10 years, married for 2. Everything in life doesn't always work out. I feel like you have a life journey, and not everybody can go on that life journey with you. Everybody comes in your life for a reason. Some are there forever, some are temporary. You don't know how long a person's going to be in your life, and vice versa. I feel like God brings people into each other's life to get to know each other and learn things from each other, and then you apply it to whatever next situation you get into, whether it's a relationship, friendship, whatever may be the case. So after that situation, I was going through a little depression period for a couple of months, and it really took it real hard. Because when you're with somebody for so long and things end like it did, you need time to just step back and find yourself. And that's what I did. I was going through a depressing state. My family really helped me through it. So I thank them. Appreciate y'all so much. And then fast forward years later, I got a certificate to be a substitute teacher. Also a certificate to be a personal trainer as well too. So I have those things under my belt. And currently now I have the Des Experience podcast. I just did another episode with another guest a few days after you later that week. So I'm up to 190 episodes now. And then, so I'm almost up to 200 with that. Outside of that, I'm a content creator on YouTube as well too. So I do reactions to like music, anime, comedy, sports, and stuff like that. I do that. I go to the gym. I love sports and playing sports, spending time with family. What else? And like I said, I mentioned the podcast and the YouTube. Um, so I got my hands in a lot of stuff right now. I'm just trying to expand. Just trying to expand.
Yeah.
I may do dabble into music too. So yep.
Okay. So and I think that that runs true for a lot of creatives, and it's something that I know is true for me. Like I have mentioned in the past, that sometimes one thing is just not enough. Like your curiosity gets the best of you, and you're like, I want to see if I can try my hand at this, or I know that I would have a good time doing this, and whatever that is. So sometimes our little creative brains get a little riled up, and we're like, I got to do the next thing. I got to do the next thing.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. What else? So I have merch for my podcast as well too. Like I interviewed a guest about a year or two ago and turned into a good relationship. And now like I go to him to do my hoodies, like custom hoodies. Like have my face on it, promoting the podcast, and then the links on the back of it and everything. So
That's very cool. Okay, so let's talk about your podcast. Like you said, you've got about 200 episodes, but how long ago did you start?
um about 2.5 years ago, literally.
Okay.
It started out as a hobby. Because before I even started it, I always listened to podcasts, whether it had to do with like business, finance, music, sports. I love all type of different topics. So I got into it. I'm like, well, I listen to all these different people share their life stories and stuff like that. I'm like, hey, I can do that. So at first I would invite some of my friends on just for a test run to see how it would feel and go. So I liked it. So then I took the next step and started inviting people on the show from around the world now. I've interviewed people from the West Coast, the East Coast, down south, and even in Colombia and stuff like that. So, because I like to have all different walks of life come on, share their life stories, their goals and dreams. Most importantly, the challenges that they overcame when they were younger to the person they become today. I like to hear a person's life journey and what they went through to who they are today. So
Yeah.
it's all about just expanding.
I like that. And you just never know, like you mentioned before, you just never know when you're going to make that connection where that relationship, becomes something more, whether it's business or, like you even said even earlier, people come into your lives for a reason and a season. They come in and whatever impact they're supposed to make, they make that impact, and they may stay, they may go. But now you've just really expanded those horizons, and it's like, oh, that's just one more person I can add to. This person has made a difference in my life, whether it is, through an interview or what have you. Is there a story that like jumps out in your head where you're like, that stuck with me? Is there like just the first thing that pops into your mind?
That's hard, man, because I've heard so many stories and so many guests come on. One of them is I can think of at the moment. It goes back to the guy I told you that does like my hoodies and stuff. Like when I go to him, he was talking about growing up in the streets and stuff like that, going through hard times. Did some time in prison, got out, changed his life around. Now he runs his own business, like store in the mall. Now has a family, wife, like kids and everything, and he just changed his life around. So I like to hear stories like that and just overcoming things.
Yeah, they're very inspirational stories when somebody can say, I've come from here and I've gone so far. And what they do with that, are they using their story to impact people? I'm all about the story. Obviously, I'm a writer. And so I'm all about the story and the people who are part of those stories. And I'm thinking, we've all got a story inside of us. And so when people go around sharing those stories, the right people will hear it, but you can't make that difference. You can't make that impact if you don't share it. And so I love that you are getting people to talk about their stories. Has there ever been one that just made you go, like your jaw hit the floor and you were like, oh my gosh, what a story?
Oh man, that's generally most of the time. Like I said, everybody has their life story. Everybody's been through different things. People coming from one country to another, adjusting to being in the States. I've had a few guests talk about like their transition, how it was rough at first. You're trying to learn a new culture. You're trying to learn the different lifestyle from one place to another. You grew up to accustomed to something you've always been around. Now you're doing something new. So it's like you gotta retrain your brain all over again to start fresh. So I just like to hear stories from people from all
Yeah.
walks of life. So
Oh, for sure. So has there ever been an interview where you're like, I can't actually publish this? Like, or do you just publish them all and just say, here goes nothing?
that's my mindset. My whole thing is when I do a podcast, I try to make the guests feel comfortable. Like I'm inviting you to my house. Like I'm opening the door, like, hey, come in. Like we're doing the podcast episode next to each other. And that's why I always say when I send my invites to a guest, I say it's unfiltered. Whatever's on your mind, just say it. I feel like you'll get the purest form of your guest. Like when there's no restrictions, they can say whatever they want. So
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Well, and I ask because, and I'm debating this because as a podcaster, and it may just be the fact that my show is not considered an unfiltered show. Like we have goals and stuff like that. And
right.
so, but I had one guest that he wanted to get a little political, and I was like, this is not the point of, we're talking about art, we're talking about work, we're talking about being creative and that kind of thing. And so
Right.
I was just wondering if there was ever a time where you were like, oh, I don't know if I want to represent that, because it's your
Yeah.
brand, it's you, and so you have to be careful what you put out.
Oh no, I'm not scared. I'm like you. The only way you'll get a true, like a great episode in a podcast, if you let your guests be themselves. Like there's no walls in between you and the guests. Like let them be themselves. And I feel like a question or something's uncomfortable, I'll sense it and I'll just move away from it. But it hasn't happened too many times. Like you just gotta let people be themselves.
I like that mentality. And I'm in several, groups online and stuff for podcasters, just, trying to learn from other people who have been doing this longer. But then you see a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm starting a podcast. And this is not my first podcast. I had one a few years ago that was based on health and wellness, and just, talking people through natural health and wellness, and brain health, and stuff like that. And so, talking to people about things, but that was a solo show. Like that was more of an information dump kind of thing. And so it wasn't as interactive. But I see so many people saying, oh, I want to start a podcast, but they want to be very specific, and they want to be very limited on their audience, and I'm like, that's not going to be very successful for you. You're not going to
No.
draw the audience you want, and that kind of thing.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
You gotta
for
be able
sure.
to open, like you gotta have an open mind. You gotta
Yes.
open mind. You got to.
And I mean, your show is very comfortable. Like your guest comes on, and it is like we're sitting in the same room having a conversation. Like it's very, welcoming, and you're very hospitable. And you just have that really great personality that says, hey, I'm going to talk, and I can tell, like you said, I can tell when we've gone too far or when it's time to
Yeah.
move on. And that is a skill that a lot of podcast hosts, they don't have. And so,
Right.
has that always been you? Have you always been a people person, an extrovert kind of thing?
Yeah, yeah. I've always been that way. And the crazy thing is, as I've gotten older, I have the ability to be both an intro and an outrovert at the same time. It just depends on my mood. Like there's some days, I think this is like with anybody. There's some days you want to be around people, hang around people, and there's some days you want to be to yourself. And that just it's nature, man. Like you don't always want to be around people all the time. You want to do your own thing.
I think that's healthy too. I think sometimes you need a break, because sometimes you get so many voices and so many influences from the outside that you're like, now what do I really think about this, or how am I really feeling, without, other people telling me how to think and what to feel.
Right. Absolutely.
Oh, for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Okay, so your podcast, we've talked about that. Now let's talk about you. Are you a reader, or are you a TV movie guy?
TV movie guy, but slowly trying to get into more reading. I want to read more as I'm getting older, because it goes back to what I said earlier, about soaking up as much information as possible. The things that really catch my attention, like book wise, I read. I like the topics like mysteries, suspense thrillers. I like things that like grab at you, like, oh, that really just happened, and plot twists. That's because the things I watch, I apply to the things I read and stuff like that. I'm also, because my favorite, switching gears real quick, my favorite subjects in school was like math, history, and science. And that it revolves around my life today. I love history. I like learning things I didn't know about. I love learning about science, like galaxies and all type of things. I'm a person that likes to learn. So
I too am a person who likes to learn, but I was on the opposite end of that spectrum. Give me English, literature, and history all day long, but you can keep the math and science. Like that
yeah,
was never
everybody
going to be my
said that.
thing.
Nobody likes math. I think I love math, but I love numbers and how you can use them in different like formats. I find it interesting.
Oh yeah, and it could just be that I didn't have great teachers. I don't know, or my brain just never really had the capacity to sit there and be like, This is the way it always is. Where my brain is constantly going, or this is what could be, or this, that maybe I needed that imaginary math, because I married a math guy. I'm married. He's an engineer mind, and he does computer
See?
science. So like, I'm like, you are here to do the numbers, and I am here to tell you stories.
Right, it works. The yin and yang. See?
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah. No, and I do have an appreciation for people who can do math, and it's so funny because the number of people that I've had on here when we're talking like how to do the business side of being a creative person, they're like, and I had this spreadsheet, and immediately I glaze over and shut down. And it's hilarious because I've told them every time, I'm like, spreadsheets are not for me. If you're going to talk numbers, I'm like, let me call my number guy. Like,
Yep.
he's in the other room, because I'm not doing it.
Yep.
Right.
And you're smart. You know your strengths and weaknesses. So that's a good thing. A lot of people um don't want to do that. They're too prideful. They're like, oh, I may not know something. I'm not gonna go ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. If you know you're not strong in a certain field, but you know somebody who is, just ask for help and help you teach you something. So next time you get in that same situation, you know what to do. You won't have to ask that help again.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I say all the time. That's why I started this podcast in the first place, is because one, I needed help. So I went out looking for the resources that I needed, but also I couldn't be the only one that needed those resources to be made available. And so how else am I going to connect people? Oh yeah, I'm just going to start interviewing people that know how to do things that I don't know how to do or have more experience than I do. And
Yep.
so we're just going to share the wealth. We're going to share the love, and we're going to help each other get through it, because I think that's something we take for granted a lot of times, just as human beings. Like you said, if you need help, ask for help. Well, when
Right.
did it become a problem to ask for help? When did we become scared to ask for help? Because I think that that's a mindset that a lot of people have.
Right. Absolutely. I'm like, I feel like we were put on earth to eventually find our purpose, but help each other grow. Networking is so important in society. The more people the more you can advance as a human being, the more things you can accomplish. So,
Oh, for sure. I think we were, people were created relationally. I mean, if you look at the beginning of creation, if you look at the Bible and look at the creation, you have two people, because
right.
one was not enough. Like, there was a reason we were put on this earth, and that was to be relational, to communicate, to make community, and that kind of thing.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I think when we leave that part out and we isolate ourselves, we are at risk for failure. But so much worse than failure is loneliness, I think, because that impacts everything.
Right. Absolutely. Like I
Mhm.
said, go back to earlier. It all depends on your mood. Like, there's times you want to be by yourself, there's times you want to be around people. So,
Yes, but and surround yourself, have those people available that after you're done being alone, that you can
yeah,
then reach out to, and surround yourself with those people, and make sure they're good quality people too.
absolutely. I feel like if you have this people around you have the same mindset as you can go far in life. So,
Yes, absolutely. And even if you have different opinions on things, if
right.
your goal is to support and lift each other up, then you have the same mindset, and you're not going to take that person for granted, and they're not going to take you for granted. I think you're in a good ship.
Right, absolutely. I feel like also sometimes like with businesses, sometimes I feel like when some of them fail is because people don't let other people share their opinion on things. You may not agree all the time, but you at least know how the other person feels, and you gotta be considerate of people's feelings. So,
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And that is something that we live in a culture where, it's all about the me. It's all about what I think matters most.
right,
I need your opinion to tell me that I matter most, but I don't care about you. Like, and you see that in we're posting for likes and shares, because we want more people to know about us and what we
right,
think. We don't go and we don't share, and we don't like other people's work, which I think is a really sad testimony to the state that we live in. But we need to be there to support, especially when you're talking indie artists, whether it's an author, a podcast, or that kind of thing. We have to collaborate. We have to share each other's work. We have to like
yep,
each other's work. Otherwise, man, how selfish are we?
right. You can't keep it all to yourself. Share the wealth. You don't know
Yes.
who you will come across or connect with one day and take you or vice versa to the next level. So,
Yes. And I'm having a conversation. I've got another conversation this afternoon with a girl who, that is our main topic, is collaborating, and why it's important to collaborate and share
yep,
other artists' work, because it's a lost art, honestly, supporting one another.
yep. It is unfortunate. Like, you're stunting your own growth by not like sharing the wealth. So,
Ooh, I like that. Yes, you're stunting your own growth. That is a great phrase.
yep,
Mhm. Okay, so you mentioned that you are a parent,
yep,
and it is the most humbling job I think we can be given on the planet, because not only are they these little needy creatures that we've been given to take care of, but they also are great little mirrors that make you go, oh, I'm like that, because you see yourself in them, and whether it's their actions and that kind of thing. So, what's one of the biggest lessons that you couldn't have learned anywhere else but in your parenting?
patience, patience, patience.
Mhm.
Yeah, man. I've naturally been like a patient person, but being a parent also, besides patience, having the ability to multitask. I really improved in that area of being a parent, multitasking, doing homework and cooking dinner at the same time. So,
Seriously, it's one of those things that I thought I was a pretty good multitasker, because I
mhm.
could, have 14 tabs open, and I could be talking on the phone and be doing all these things. And then I had a kid come along, and it was like, oh, wait a second. I am not as good at this as I thought I was.
That's the real multitask.
Seriously. And you can't let that one drop. Like, you can let a
No,
tab close on your computer, but you cannot let that one drop. So
no, not at all. Not that one. No.
no, that's funny. I've never thought about that before, but yeah, you're right. Multitasking is a huge deal. And I look at her. She's 14, or will be 14 in a couple of months, and she she's like my little friend, but I've had to learn because she's an only child, and she's homeschooled, and so we're together all day every day. But I've had to learn these lessons of how am I separating mom and friend, and that's been an interesting lesson to learn because yeah, you still have to do what I say, but at the same time I want to have fun with you.
Can I please touch on this topic right
Yeah.
here? Please.
Yes.
Oh man, I'm glad somebody finally brought this up. This never came up on any of my episodes. So I feel like one of the biggest issues today, because parenting today is way different than when we grew up many moons ago.
Yes.
I feel like parents today in reverse try to be the kid's friend first and then parent. I feel like it comes back in the future to bite them in the ass.
Yes.
In the future, because now the kids gotten used to a certain thing, a certain way, and they feel like they can talk to their parent in your way, and then the parent get mad at them, like, but you can only blame yourself for what you did when they were younger. The foundation has to be laid when they're younger. I tell my kids all the time, like, I'm your father first, friend second. You must understand that I'll always have your back, but no, I'm dad first.
Yes, that is quite unfortunate, and are so right because they let their kid run the household, they let their kid run the schedule. That's one of the things that really bugs me is when the parents are like, "Oh, we can't because my kid is XYZ." Well, here's the thing: like when we were growing up, and this is another thing that has changed, and that is really like sports, looking at kids' sports. We practiced on, I think, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we had games on Saturdays because I played softball. And
Right.
so, we had Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. We never had practice on Sunday. We never had practice on Wednesday night because, those were church nights for a lot of people. And we had just those two. Well, now you're practicing Monday through Friday. You have tournaments on Saturday and Sunday. Like there is no rest. And the parents are letting the kids choose this because why? Why are they the ones? Because then we're not doing the kids any favors because they're having to stay up late to do homework. They're staying up late to do projects. They're missing out on all these other things that are a little more important because I'm sorry, the chances of your kid going to the World Series in Major League Baseball are like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's very difficult. Very. You gotta
It
have a
is.
backup plan just in case that doesn't work. You gotta have a plan B, man. You got to.
Oh yeah, and so there's I don't have a problem with kids playing sports. I have a
No.
problem with the kids' sports schedule dictating the entire family calendar,
Yeah.
and so just stuff like that. I think that because you're not having that family time, and we had dinner around the table just about every night except the Tuesdays and Thursdays when we had practice. We were family dinner as much as we could, and
Right.
but you're taking 3 hours a night to go play baseball or soccer or whatever sport, insert sport here. And so, yeah, then the kid's like, oh, well, then I run this place. And so what I
Yup.
want goes. And the parents don't know how to step in and be like, boundaries.
Yeah. But that starts once again, like I said earlier, it starts early in their life. You have to put give them these tools, like these rules in place early in life. So when they get older, teenager and beyond, they understand already. Like, okay, we know how this goes. And then as a parent, you have to give them the tools when they're a teenager going into adulthood to go out there and be successful and survive in the real world. Like, yes, you'll be there to have their back whenever they need you, but they have to make their own mistakes and learn from them. You can't clean up
Yeah.
after them every time they do something.
Yes. And I think that goes back to we're fostering this mentality of it's all about me. And then that bleeds over into their future selves when it's like, oh, well, you clearly, I'm the one that matters here and not you. And so it just impacts every dimension of their lives now and later.
Right.
Mhm.
I try to raise my kids the same way my mom raised us. Because I feel like parents like from our generation, that type of mentality is missing from today. And this is why you see how kids acting out and getting in trouble and these things of these nature. So
Yes, for sure. You can't say that we're sending them off to school and it's the school's fault. You can't send them off to, camp and say it's the camp's fault, whatever. Like it starts at home. So if there's a problem, let's look in the mirror.
right, absolutely. I mean, certain
Oh,
situations that happen at school may not be in your control. Like it
right.
happens. But if you teach your kids certain like values, then they'll be fine.
Yes,
Have
exactly.
your kids, just have
Absolutely.
your kids back. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that is definitely but also teach your kids how to respond appropriately to a
right.
multiple, selection of situations and circumstances, like, teach them these are what boundaries are. This is what no means. This is, how many chances a person gets, teach them these things and don't make them figure it out for themselves. Cause good Lord, the front part of the brain that makes all these really important decisions, it's not fully developed until we're like 25. And
Right.
so, we can't expect these littles to go to school and make good choices if we're not teaching it to them to begin with.
Exactly. It all starts at home and it starts early in their life.
Oh, for sure. All right. So this kind of sounds like a pet peeve of yours, but do you have a big pet peeve, like something that just really irks you?
Um, hmm. Second time I ever been asked this question. Pet peeve. Honesty.
Oh,
Biggest pet peeve. Honesty. Like there's other ones I can think of, but honesty is the biggest one.
I totally, and mine kind of goes along with that respect. Like,
Yeah.
I do not tolerate disrespect.
No. Mm-mm.
And I think honesty is a sign of respect.
Yep. They go hand in hand.
They absolutely do. A fun one that I also have is time management. It really bothers me when people don't have good time management skills.
Right. I was right on time today.
Yeah,
Yep.
I had no doubt about it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I was like, all
Not
right,
even a little.
I was like, finish these dishes up. I'm like, all right, let's do this.
No, and I appreciate that. I've had some. I love when people are early because then we're like we just jump in. But I also really like it when they're on time because it gives me a minute to sit down and be like, okay, let's make sure everything's working. Because clearly, I was here early because nobody else is awake in my house or wasn't awake in my house, and so I was like, oh, but clearly I didn't even have my microphone set up correctly, so it didn't matter that I was here early.
Right. Yeah.
Whatever.
I mean, there are some instances that emergencies happen and cause you to be
Yes.
late, like certain circumstances that are out of your control. So,
Oh, for sure. Okay, I'm going to share a funny story from my wedding planning days. The very first wedding I did, the very
right.
first wedding I did was, and let me preface this by saying I have done Chinese weddings, I have done American weddings, I have done you name it, I have run the gamut. My very first wedding was a black wedding, and when I go into a wedding, I have a clipboard with a timeline down to the minute of everything that's supposed to happen.
Okay.
And you got 5 minutes to do this, you got 10 minutes to do this, the processional starts here, and it's perfect. And so I get there, and we're there hours early, the bride's getting ready. 30 minutes before the wedding is supposed to begin, the DJ hasn't shown up.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, call him. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm on my way home to take a shower.
Right.
30 minutes before the wedding's supposed to start. And I was like, oh, so will you be here in 30 minutes? And he was like, we'll see. And I was like, okay. And so I tell the bride, I'm like, the DJ's not here yet. She's like, okay. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, so I'm sitting here panicking because my timeline is slowly changing. And so I'm sitting on this little brick patio thing, and this wonderful, wonderful man is an older black man, and he's got his camera. He's the photographer, and he says, honey, what's that? And I said, oh, this is the timeline. He goes, oh, honey, you need to throw that away. You're on CPT now. And I said, I'm sorry, what? And he said, you're on colored people's time. And I said, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
That means, he said, that timeline will get you nowhere.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. The DJ was 2 hours late for this wedding. 2 hours. Because he had to go home and get a shower, and then he showed up and his equipment needed to be set up and all this stuff. And so the wedding started 2 hours late. And the photographer, man, he just smiled at me the whole time, and he just looked and he was like, I didn't even have a clipboard in my hand anymore. I'm just like, whatever. So anyway, time management, like I learned a lesson that day that it's very different for a bunch of different people. And I was very flexible after that. And what was really funny, like the Chinese wedding, everything was early. So I was just like,
yep. Yeah, but that guy, the photographer is absolutely right. It's totally different.
I told one of my friends, like he's also a black man, and I told him about it, and he was like, I am sharing this story with everybody I know. I was like, that's fine.
Yep.
That's fine. Just the little white girl doesn't know any better. It's fine. Whatever.
Hey man, that's why I said everybody's different. It goes back to what I said, everybody's different, everybody moves on their own time. But he's accurate. That was very accurate. And I believe that happened too.
Oh, dude, it was so funny. It was so sweet. And it was just, and I loved how everybody just rolled with it. And I was the only one freaking out. And I was like, this was nothing to anybody else there, because my husband and I were the only white people at this wedding. It was so sweet and so cute.
Okay.
It was a great first wedding experience. Listen, when I tell you, I've had father of the bride hit by a car.
I remember you telling me that story on my podcast. That was crazy.
You just never know what's going to happen at a wedding. So anyway, but time management is a pet peeve of mine as well. But I also have learned to respect the fact that stuff happens.
Mm-hmm. That's funny, but like I said, I believe it. I believe it. You were talking about your first wedding. Yep.
I mean, my mother-in-law grew up in Nigeria. She was born and raised in Nigeria, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I could have told you that." And I was like, "Oh,
yep,
got it." Anyway, okay, it is your turn. What do you want to talk about?
Oh man, what do I want to talk about now? I feel like I'm hosting my episode now. Oh man, Let's see. I thought I covered everything with you in my podcast episode. Um, Basic questions. What's your favorite color?
Blue, but not just any blue, like cerulean blue.
Oh, okay.
You
My
know the
favorite color.
crayon,
Okay.
the crayon, cerulean blue. That one.
Okay. Mine's also blue, but baby blue.
Nice. I like all blue.
Yep. When I was younger, it was green, but as I got older, once I saw the color baby blue, that was it. I was like, I'm done. That's my color right there.
No, I'm talking like blue, like none of this blue green, like just baby blue. Like
Yep.
oh, I
Yeah.
like no, the navy blue would be my second favorite. Like I love the bright cerulean, but navy blue is also it's like it makes me relax. Cerulean makes me happy, navy makes me relax.
Right, right. Um, what game did you like playing when you were older? Are you or I don't think you are now. Were you ever a gamer? Like game?
You know, I have never we had a Nintendo growing up and we played all the, you know, the regular Nintendo games. We have a Wii that's kind of fun. We've had it for like 15 years. It's like one of the original Wii's and it still works. It's pretty cool. But like I've never been a gamer. If you want to give me a game, let's play board games or card games or something like that. But yeah.
Okay, what's your favorite board and card game? Which ones?
Ooh, honestly, I always liked playing Monopoly growing up, which is funny because I was never, you know, I didn't like numbers, but I really liked like, and I could always win. I don't know how. I don't know how. I'm terrible with money. I'm just not going to lie about it. I am. That's not my forte, but I can kick butt in Monopoly. And card game. Have you ever played Exploding Kittens? Have you ever heard of that one?
No, I've never played that or heard of it. Please
It's
tell me.
hilarious. I mean, it's so simple and so plain. That you're sitting there like stealing cards from people, but if you're not careful, you will draw a card that's an exploding kitten that literally just that means you're out, like you're just done. And the only way to undo it is if you have like a defuse the bomb card. And so it's hilarious because you're trying to make other people explode while
Mm,
you know also it's so simple and so funny. Like it's one of those card games that I never thought you could laugh so hard playing a card game, but it's hilarious.
nice, nice. Like I
Mhm.
still game now, but not as much as I gotten older because I have more responsibilities. So I mainly game now with my kids because I've kind of passed the torch to them now. So I game with them. Like they need help on something, I'll help them with puzzles because I love puzzle games. It's just my thing. I'm a think I love solving puzzles. So I mainly game with them now, and I teach them about like the old school games like Mario, Zelda, and stuff like that. Getting them into that. So I try to teach them about things I grew up on and share with them in the present. So
Oh yeah. Did you game as a kid? Did you have like a gaming console as a kid? Which ones did you have?
oh my, it started
Where
when
did
I
you
was
start?
so it started when I was 7. It started with the original Nintendo.
Yes.
Original Nintendo. The only thing that sucked about that was there was no save points. So you had to play the game all the way through. Otherwise, you have to leave it on and run your parents' electric bill up. So I would try my best to hurry up and beat the game and get it over with. So I'm thankful now there's save points in games.
Seriously, my parents when before we ever had a Nintendo, I was in like third grade, I think, and we had an Atari. Like it was theirs from when
Ooh,
they had first gotten married, and so we had an Atari, and I will never forget. Like I liked the Atari more than
right,
I liked the Nintendo, which is so funny, but it's true.
right, right. What was your favorite games to play on Atari?
We only had like two. We had like Pitfall, where you're like the little guys running and grabbing the vine and swinging across,
Yeah.
and we had what was the other one called? I don't know. Somebody was throwing stuff at you and you had to like dodge it. I don't know, but
Hmm.
Pitfall was my favorite one on that one.
Yeah, man. There's a lot of people's favorite game for Atari, like Pitfall, Ping Pong. Like there's all type
Oh,
of
we
games.
did have that one. Yeah, we did have that one too. The little ding, ding, ding.
Yup.
Yes,
It's so simple, but it was so addictive. You just look at the screen, just hitting the ball back and forth to each other. Like it was addictive.
it was. And sometimes I wonder, I'm like, have we, because that's one of those things that kind of goes with scrolling. Like it's just
Yep.
this addictive motion that you do. I'm like, did we really set people up for this addiction as a kid playing these kinds of games? Probably.
Right. Absolutely. Yep.
That's funny.
When is your
What,
birthday?
oh, I'm so glad you asked. That's funny. My birthday is November 22nd, which is just so happened when this episode will air.
Nice, nice. Um, my birthday is Halloween.
It's coming up then.
Yeah,
I
yep.
love it. That's awesome. I will be 40 this year. This is my 40th. So you get to go out on a big birthday.
There you go. There you go. I'll be 38. So
Oh, not far behind. Listen,
nope.
and it's so funny. Like for the longest time, okay, back up, funny story. When I found out I was pregnant, I was 25. And I was like at the doctor's office the day that we were, confirming everything and filling out this form. And it was like, how old will you be at birth? And I was like, 25. And my husband said, no, you'll be 26. And I lost it. Granted, as pregnant and, hormones and all that stuff. And so, but I started bawling. I was like,
Mhm.
26 is so old. Oh my God. And so I was
Yep.
just having this meltdown in the hospital, talking about how old I was going to be. And so from that point on, everybody thought that, like, when I would tell that story, they're like, oh, she's sensitive about her age. And for a little while, I kind of was. But then, 30 happened and it was a milestone because a lot of things were falling into place at 30. And now, I've looked back over the last 10 years and I'm like, I embrace the fact that I am 40. I had no idea what 40 would look like, but I am not sad about it. I mean, it feels a little older than 25, but at the same
Right.
time, I'm like, I feel so much more put together than I ever was at 25 or 26.
Right. 'Cause at that point, you're still trying to just finding yourself. What do you want to do?
Yes.
You're going through all these different emotions. So
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people, they think I need to have it figured out immediately. But good gracious, I wouldn't trade the last, since what, 14 years. I wouldn't trade these last 14 years to know what was going to happen, because the journey to get here has been so just rewarding and fulfilling. And I hope that you can say the same thing about 38.
absolutely, man. I don't feel like it because my kids make me feel younger. And I'm just glad I go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week. So
Yeah, you always have to just to stay, to feel young enough to keep up with them.
they're mile a minute. Yep.
Oh my gosh, for sure. Okay. I know that you've got things you've got to get done this afternoon. I know that I've got things that are waiting for me, like that pile of laundry sitting in my bedroom at the moment. But before we go, I've got two questions. One, how can listeners connect with you and your podcast? Where can we find that?
All right. So my podcast at first it was just available on Spotify, but it's grown over the years. So now it's available everywhere on all platforms under the name Dez Experience, DEZ space the word experience. My social media handles, this is crazy me sharing my information now, usually the other way around. But so my Instagram is Instagram at Philip_Peanut, FILI_Peanut, PEANUT. My TikTok is Peanut, PEANUT_85. 85 is my birth year. That's why I use it in most of my stings. My Facebook is just my name, Desmond Sims. Is my Facebook. YouTube channel is Peanut 4678. That's my YouTube channel.
Okay.
So
Perfect. And I'll make sure all that's in the show notes. So it's just a simple click away that they don't have to go searching too far. It'll all be right there. They can copy and paste it and find you pretty instantly. All right. You ready for your big question? This is the biggest question because it makes the biggest impact, I think.
all right. Let me make sure.
Okay.
Okay, I'm ready.
You're good.
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready.
What is the one piece of advice or encouragement that you want listeners to walk away with if they hear nothing else today?
Just follow your dreams. Go for the things that you want. Don't let nobody hold you back. Just know it's okay to have your me time. It's okay. You don't have to be around people all the time. Like, it's nothing wrong with that. So many people shun people who are loners. I understand people who are loners because those usually are the people who are outside the box and not trying to fit in. They can't relate to you on a normal level. Trying to think of any other things. Value your family time. That's important. Just value your life. You only get one life. Just go for the things you want, and you're not gonna have it always figured out all the time. Every
True
day,
story.
every day is a different experience. Some days are good, some days are bad, but most importantly, just stay on an even keel. Don't get too high, don't get too low. Just stay right there in the middle, and know that God has your back. And you may want things sound bad at the moment, but God knows when it's time for you to get it, He'll present the blessing to you, and you just gotta be ready for it.
Yes, absolutely. Like he's already created the timeline. He already sees what's happening in the future. So just let's just ride with his plan. It's usually the best.
Right, absolutely. I mean, you might hit a few potholes, and you just gotta try your best to avoid the potholes and go around it. So
Yeah, and when you do hit the potholes, just know that there's a mechanic on the other side who can help you make the repairs. Like that's God's not going to just leave you sitting there stranded.
right, there's no manual to how to live your life. There's no script. Like, you're the God's the author, and you like He's writing your story, and you're just filling it in. So
Yes, for sure. Absolutely. Well, Des, thank you for hanging out today. Like it's always a pleasure, and maybe we'll do it again sometime.
oh, absolutely, man. Like I said, it's my first time guesting on anybody's podcast. So I just want to say thank you so much for
Yeah.
sending me the invitation this time to come on your podcast. I appreciate it. I really do.
Oh, for sure.